Welcome to another deep dive.
Bye.
Today, we're going to be stepping back in time
Mm-hmm.
to ancient Egypt
Mm-hmm.
to explore the life of one of history's most captivating figures,
Right.
Cleopatra.
Oh, yes.
You've sent us a treasure trove of excerpts about her,
Right.
and we're here to kind of sift through this historical sand and uncover the real story behind the legend.
I love that. Yeah. And you know what's particularly intriguing about Cleopatra is how her story's been told and retold
Yeah?
through the centuries.
Right.
We're going to try to peel back those layers of myth and romanticization
Right.
and discover the woman, the ruler, the strategist at the heart of it all.
Okay, yeah. All right, let's unpack this.
Mm-hmm.
Our sources take us straight to her birthplace, Alexandria,
Okay.
a city practically synonymous with knowledge and culture in the ancient world.
Absolutely.
It wasn't just some, backwater outpost, was it?
Not at all. Picture a bustling metropolis home to the renowned Library of Alexandria, a repository of scrolls upon scrolls of ancient wisdom. This was the intellectual environment that nurtured Cleopatra's sharp mind.
Yeah.
And she wasn't just well-educated for the time.
Okay.
She was fluent in multiple languages,
Great.
including Egyptian, a rarity for her family.
Wow.
And she was well-versed in philosophy, rhetoric, even literature.
So not just a pretty face then.
Huh.
More scholar than socialite.
Indeed. Imagine her holding court not just with her presence, but with her intellect.
Wow.
Historical sources describe her as a captivating orator,
Oh, really?
renowned for her persuasive arguments and logical reasoning.
Wow.
She knew how to command attention not just with her lineage, but with her mind.
Which makes you wonder even more about her rise to power at just 17.
Oh, yeah.
Co-ruling with her younger brother.
Right.
I mean, talk about navigating a complicated family dynamic, right?
Right.
And on top of that, she's part of the Ptolemaic dynasty.
Yes.
A family known for their, shall we say, passionate disagreements.
An understatement.
Really?
These weren't just sibling rivalries. We're talking about a dynasty famous for its power struggles, intrigue, exile, even assassinations.
Oh, wow.
It was a snake pit even before you factor in the Romans.
Okay, so not your average family drama.
No.
And speaking of Romans,
Yes.
our sources highlight Cleopatra's early attempts to forge political ties with Rome.
Right.
It's easy to forget, with all the romantic narratives, that she was a player on the world stage.
Absolutely. She recognized Rome's growing power
Right.
and saw an opportunity to safeguard her own position.
Mm-hmm.
She initially cultivated a relationship with Pompey the Great,
Okay.
a prominent Roman general.
Oh.
However,
Hey.
this strategy took a turn when Pompey, fleeing from Julius Caesar, after a military defeat, sought refuge in Egypt, hoping for Cleopatra's support.
Oh, boy. I see where this is going. A bit of a tight spot for a young queen trying to assert herself.
A pivotal moment, for sure.
Yeah.
Ptolemy III, Cleopatra's brother and co-ruler,
Right.
saw a chance to gain favor with Caesar.
Oh.
He listened to his advisors, who believed that presenting Caesar with Pompey's head,
Oh, my gosh.
literally eliminating his rival, would be a strategic win.
Talk about high stakes and a pretty gruesome welcome gift.
It was a miscalculation of epic proportions.
Yeah.
Caesar, while no friend of Pompey's, was appalled by this act.
Right.
He saw it as a betrayal of a Roman leader, a violation of Roman honor.
Right.
This single event set the stage for a dramatic shift in power
Wow.
and marked the beginning of Cleopatra's complex relationship with Julius Caesar.
And this is where it gets really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
We've all heard the stories, seen the movies.
Right.
A young queen, exiled by her own brother,
Right.
needs to win over the most powerful man in Rome.
Yeah.
So what does she do? She gets smuggled into his chambers in a sack.
A rather daring tactic, wouldn't you say? And while the historical accuracy of this sack incident is debated among historians,
Okay.
with some sources claiming it's more legend than fact,
Right.
it speaks volumes about how Cleopatra was perceived.
How's...
A woman of cunning, willing to take risks to secure her position.
Wow. You have to admit, sneaking into someone's palace in a sack definitely makes a statement.
It does.
But it apparently did the trick, because our sources say Cleopatra and Caesar became romantically involved
Right.
and even had a son, Caesarion.
It's important to remember that their relationship was as much about politics as it was about passion.
Right.
Cleopatra desperately needed Caesar's support to regain her throne.
Right.
And Caesar saw in her a shrewd and intelligent ally who could help him extend Roman influence.
So a love story maybe, but also a high-stakes political chess match with the future of Egypt hanging in the balance.
Exactly. Cleopatra was playing a dangerous game.
Yeah.
And she played it brilliantly. With Caesar's backing, she not only secured her position as ruler of Egypt, but also expanded her influence.
Right.
And yet their relationship wasn't without its scandals.
Right.
Imagine the whispers in Rome, the rumors spreading through the Senate,
Oh, yeah.
an Egyptian queen entwined with Rome's most powerful general.
Talk about tabloid fodder for the ages.
Right.
It makes you wonder how much of what we hear about her is political spin
Right.
or attempts to discredit her.
Mm-hmm.
Which brings us to another aspect of Cleopatra
Yes.
that often gets oversimplified her looks.
Of course.
Hollywood has a field day with this,
Right.
portraying her as this like legendary beauty.
Mm-hmm.
But what do our sources actually tell us about her appearance?
Well, we have Plutarch,
Okay.
a Greek historian,
Right.
writing sometime after Cleopatra's reign,
Okay.
describing her as having an irresistible presence.
Okay.
But notice how he doesn't specifically focus on physical beauty.
Right.
It's more about her overall aura, her charm, her intellect,
Yeah.
her captivating personality.
More about charisma than conventional beauty standards then.
Exactly. And if we want a more objective view,
Okay.
we can turn to the coins minted during Cleopatra's reign.
Okay.
These images, often considered the most reliable representations of her, show a woman with a strong, prominent nose and chin.
Really?
A far cry from the idealized images we often see in film and art.
So not the Hollywood Cleopatra then.
No.
It's fascinating how visual representations can be so powerful.
It is.
Even manipulative.
Yeah,
Shaping how history remembers someone.
for sure.
Speaking of which, it's easy to get caught up in the Caesar chapter of Cleopatra's story.
Right.
Still, you mentioned she continued to rule effectively,
She did.
even after her return to Rome.
Absolutely.
That couldn't have been easy given the political turmoil brewing there.
Not at all. She faced constant challenges.
Like what?
Internal power struggles, threats from neighboring kingdoms, and the ever-shifting sands of Roman politics.
Oh, yeah?
Remember, she was a woman ruling in a man's world,
Right.
constantly needing to prove her intelligence, her strength,
Yeah.
and her legitimacy as a leader. And yet she managed to hold on to power,
Wow.
even expanding Egypt's influence through strategic alliances
Right.
and trade agreements.
She sounds less like a damsel in distress and more like a master strategist, always thinking several steps ahead.
Absolutely.
Right.
And this brings us to another fascinating point raised by our sources.
Okay.
The idea that Cleopatra's nose might have changed the course of history.
What?
It's a quote attributed to the philosopher Pascal.
Okay.
And while likely meant to be hyperbolic,
Right.
it shines a light on how much history is shaped by perception interpretation and even, well, appearances.
So are we talking about the butterfly effect of ancient history?
Yeah,
Like if Cleopatra had looked different, would things have played out differently?
precisely. If Cleopatra had fit the conventional beauty standards of, say, Hollywood,
Right.
would her story be told any differently?
Right.
Would we be so quick to focus on her love affairs?
Right.
Or would we instead highlight her political acumen, her intellect, her resilience as a ruler navigating a world on the brink of collapse?
It's almost impossible to separate the person from the image, isn't it? Even after all these centuries.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it reminds us to be critical of the narratives we encounter.
Right.
Cleopatra's story is not just about beauty or romantic entanglements.
Right.
It's a story of ambition survival
Right.
and the struggle to maintain control in a world constantly teetering on the edge of chaos.
Wow.
And speaking of chaos, our sources hint at some significant changes brewing in Rome.
Okay.
Remember that civil war?
Yes.
The one between Caesar and Pompey
All right.
that sent Cleopatra scrambling for alliances?
Yeah, it didn't end so well for Pompey.
Well, it turns out that wasn't quite the end of the story.
Oh, really?
That conflict had some serious aftershocks.
Okay.
And Cleopatra found herself right at the epicenter.
Okay, so we've got like a power vacuum in Rome. Cleopatra holding her own in Egypt. This is starting to feel like the sequel nobody expected, but everyone's going to want to see.
And what a sequel it is. But in this chapter, it's not Caesar who takes center stage.
Right.
Enter Mark Antony, another powerful Roman general, Caesar's right-hand man, and a key player in the aftermath of the Civil War.
Wait, Antony? He was on Caesar's side in all of this. That's adding another layer of complexity to this whole web of alliances.
Absolutely. See, after Caesar's assassination, Antony forms what you might call a coalition, a strategic alliance, really, with other powerful figures in Rome. They're aiming to stabilize the Republic, avenge Caesar, and, well, let's just say ambition was a major motivator for all involved. And guess who else saw an opportunity in this chaotic post-Caesar world?
I think I can see where this is going. Cleopatra never wanted to miss a chance to secure her kingdom's future.
Precisely. She forms an alliance with Antony, one that becomes just as significant politically and personally as her relationship with Caesar. It's a reminder that she was constantly evaluating the ever-shifting landscape of power, always looking for ways to protect Egypt's interests.
So more power plays, more intrigue, maybe even a little romance thrown in, for good measure. Cleopatra clearly knew how to make an impression and forge alliances that really mattered. It's no wonder her story continues to fascinate us even after all these centuries.
It's a story that has it all: drama, ambition, larger-than-life personalities clashing against a backdrop of empires rising and falling. But more than just a soap opera of the ancient world, it reminds us that even the most cunning rulers, the most skilled strategists, are ultimately at the mercy of the currents of history.
That's a really powerful point. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Cleopatra's life, it's clear she was much more than just a name in a history book or a tragic love story. She was a brilliant woman, a savvy politician, a ruler who fought relentlessly to preserve her kingdom during a period of incredible upheaval.
She defied expectations, shattered the limitations placed on women in her time, and left an indelible mark on history. Whether you see her as a shrewd stateswoman, a cunning manipulator, or a tragic heroine, there's no denying the impact she had on the world stage.
It makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We often view historical figures through such a simplified lens, focusing on the scandals, the battles, the love affairs. But when we take the time to dig a little deeper like we've done today, we uncover so much more: the complexities, the contradictions, the humanity that make history so compelling.
Couldn't agree more. It's a reminder that there's always more to learn, more to uncover, more to question about the past. And often it's in those unexplored corners, those nuanced details, that we discover the most surprising and illuminating truths.
Absolutely. So listener, as you continue to explore the world of ancient Egypt and the enigmatic Cleopatra, here's a final thought to consider. What if instead of simply remembering her as the last pharaoh of Egypt, we view her as a symbol of resilience, of ambition, of the enduring power of human will in the face of overwhelming odds?
An excellent point to ponder. Because history is full of these hidden depths, these alternative interpretations, these invitations to challenge the narratives we think we know. And sometimes it's in those quiet spaces between the lines, those moments of reflection, that we discover the most extraordinary truths about the past and perhaps even ourselves.